What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the Alto again, and this time we are here with Croatia's own. We are here with Manntra. Thank you so much, Marko, for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having us. It's really a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, it's an honor. Another country I could check off the list of Croatia. I think I have like maybe 11 more countries from Europe that I need to check off. So this is a good one to cross off. But
that's good.
But it's so awesome to have you here with the new album Titans coming out. Is absolutely amazing. Was there sort of a vision or like a goal that you had in mind with the making of this album, or was it a very like experimental and like improvisational songwriting process?
We always do the same thing. We want to make something really different and big and whatever, but in the end it always sound like Manntra. The only difference is that every time it's a little bit we put our, let's say, goals a little bit higher, a little bit more on a scale, let's say, on a scale that we put things every time we make them sound a little bit better, at least in our taste. Maybe it's worse. Who knows? People will, in the end, say what they really feel about the album. But I think we did the best album so far, at least from our perspective as artists, as musicians. But in the end, it's always about the people to judge it.
Was this because being that you guys formed, I believe in 2012 is when the band came together. So like a lot of artists would like say, "Oh, we're finally making the music that we've always wanted to make." But 10, 12, 15 years ago, you can never predict the future. So can you really say that you're making the music that you've always wanted to make? Like, can you really say that, or did you never really expected Manntra to take the direction that it has been because, the future's so unpredictable?
Yeah, Manntra has its own life. It's like the band is shaping us. We are not shaping the band. I don't know how to explain that. And we just get inspired by things that are happening to us, by touring, by people we meet across the road. And this is shaping us as people, as artists, as musicians, and songwriters. And I think this is the beautiful thing about it. It's like writing a script of a movie, but you don't have an ending. And maybe you will get the perfect ending just 5 minutes before you start to shoot it. So you need to have this spontaneous, this spark of life. Things should not be programmed in advance. So this is how we work in Manntra in terms of songwriting and creating albums. So if you ask me if I'm happy with what we are doing now, yes, I feel really good on stage. I feel really good in the studio recording these parts. And maybe when I look back to some parts of the Manntra history, I feel like, oh, maybe we could have done it much better or different. But at the moment, I'm happy where we are. So let's see what... You can ask me this question in 10 years, then maybe I will have a different opinion about Titans.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is so this channel has been around now since 2017. So there's been plenty of artists where like I'm interviewing them for the third or fourth time. It's like the fourth album cycle. I'm interviewing them, and like when I first interviewed them, they were promoting the first album that I talked to them about. Oh man, this is the best thing we've ever done. And then I speak to them this year and they're like, oh, let's not even talk about that early album. That. So it's amazing how the band evolves. Their opinion on their own artwork also evolves as well.
That's so typical. And when the album is out, for us it's already an old album. There's no more spark in it for us, but the people just start to listen and discover it. So it's really a two-side coin.
Yeah, it's almost, it's funny in the sense that it's like, when we hear the album in 2025, I don't know when you started working on this album, but, there's plenty of times where it takes like 2 years between albums. So, like 2023, we're already preparing for 2025's interviews. And I already know that there's some bands I'm interviewing where they're already prepping for stuff going into 2027. So,
yeah. That's true. Yeah, it's never fresh for us, but for the people it's fresh. So yeah. But I'm happy that we are in a music genre, like a metal music genre, that has some kind of evergreen vibe, evergreen sound. So sometimes some band comes with a retro sound and it sounds fresh. So you don't really have to follow or chase a dragon all the time. Like in pop music, you need to be hot. Now it's the trap thing. If you're not in the trap thing, things are not happening around you. But in metal, it's different. And many old school, let's say, genres that maybe are dead are making a return. And this is pretty cool. I love this about the metal community. It's like an evergreen community. It's like a tuxedo, it fits good in every century in a way.
That's a great analogy. That's a great one. You gotta bookmark that one. That should be written in the press release. But like it's funny too because in the world of metal, you know, you have like I think metal has been I don't want to say guilty, but like metal has had the ability to like they're bringing back the old school sounds. You know, you see new metal like you know making a return in a way, but then you see the rise of newer types of bands like Bad Omens or Sleep Token or Spirit Box that are like really taking the world by storm as well. So I feel like metal has always been a way to bring back old sounds while also tending to innovate at the same time.
But it's like cursed in trending, you know, when something new happened, like with the new metal stuff that happened in the early 2000s. It was like the fresh thing. Everyone wanted to sound like that. It's the same thing that's happening now with Bad Omens and bands like that. But these trends really grow old in a bad way in metal. It was always like that. So new metal was really loved and then was really, really hated. And just now bands from the new metal era, 20 years after, are becoming like, okay, they were cool.
Yeah.
But it took 20 years, and this will happen possibly also to bands like Bad Omens, because metal was the trending stuff in metal was never a good place to be. It's good in the beginning because you get all the cream, you know, but later it fires back at you. So many bands that had a steady sound became much more successful in long terms.
Yeah. It's amazing on how it ages over time. Like I'll give you a parallel. I'm a tattoo artist, and I've tattooed plenty of people who just turned 18 years old. That's how old you have to be to get tattooed in New York. And many of them have not even heard of Linkin Park. I've had one client say, "I don't listen to My Chemical Romance. That's lame. My parents listen to them." And it's like, oh my God. So I think we as artists, you know, in our 20s and 30s, you know, young metalheads, and even going into our 40s now, we're starting to witness the stuff that we grew up with. Starting to like the kids are starting to think we're lame for the stuff that we listen to. Yeah. My
parents were listening to the Beatles. Imagine how this was a big contrast. But
same with mine.
This is really funny.
And because it was my parents listening to them, I thought that the Beatles were lame. No offense to anybody listening to them. I respect them a lot now. But so it's going to be a trend. Watch, young kids are going to say that we're a bunch of cowards, that saying that like Cannibal Corpse is like is just coward music.
It's bizarre, but it's the truth. I mean, it's how it goes.
Well, circling back to the sound of Manntra though, because you have like a lot of sounds, like I'll put it to you this way, you have, it's a joke, you have the Napalm sound. It doesn't surprise me. I listen to your music and I'll be like, oh yeah, they're definitely on Napalm Records with the sort of folk and sort of progressive elements into this. I know it's kind of cliche to ask like what your influences are, but the reason why I ask this with a lot of folk bands is because, you know, obviously the metal is in there, and you have a lot of the traditional folk elements that could either be traced back to the band's origins or whatever. But then there's also a lot of storytelling and a lot of fictional aspects behind it. So with the formation of Manntra and the music that you write, were you looking at other metal bands to inspire your music, or were you looking at fantasy-oriented stuff and maybe stuff outside of even music as a means of inspiration?
Well, it's a good question and a long answer, but I will try to keep it as short as possible.
I love the long answers, please.
So basically we come from Croatia, as you mentioned before. We are somewhere in between the Eastern and Western Europe, because the part of Croatia where we come from is actually 20 kilometers from Italy. So basically, it's really in the center of Europe when you look at it as a geographically really on point. But the far eastern side of Croatia has this eastern more influence that come from Eastern Europe, like Ukrainian, Russian, Belarusian, whatever influence. So it's a big mix of two cultures. You have this Italian kind of old Roman Empire's influence that was for centuries here. On the other hand, you have wild barbarian Slavic people, you know, destroying everything and having their other kind of horror, spooky folk ethno heritage that's really popular. Like with games like Witcher made them more popular and much more, you know, fictionalized than before. And Manntra basically is in the middle, and we merged these two things not because we wanted, but because we grew up listening to Italian music and listening to old Slavic folk music. This was really bizarre, but this was our environment. Growing up, we started to listen to metal. I mean, this was the music where we found ourselves, and we listened to bands like Iron Maiden, Pantera, whatever. When you start to do that thing, as we mentioned before, new metal, then you discover stuff like that. And then you want to start a band, and then we experiment with various sound. We played in a thrash band, we had a black metal band, we had a death metal band. You know, you grow up, you learn your instrument, all things are normal. And then suddenly, with Mantra, I was on a meeting. Like they were playing old ethno Croatian instruments like bagpipes, some other weird instruments I cannot even describe. They look like a big wardrobe with strings and they don't make any sound. It's bizarre. But what the harmonica, accordino, and stuff like that. But the atmosphere was so good, and people were playing these instruments heavier than a metal band. You know, they were really like hitting it, and the energy was really rock and roll, raw energy. You know. And on the other hand, we have this klapa singing. It's a choir of 5, 6, 7, 8 men who sing all together in various harmonizations, and it sounds basically like a metal lead guitar. I mean, the harmonizations are there. It's like an Iron Maiden harmonization or whatever, and they sing really, you know, and you're scared of them when they sing. You know, it's really cool. And these were bits of elements that I always wanted to merge with metal music because, of course, people were doing that before. I mean, our friends in Extrema, we're really good friends, for example, they were doing
great band
folk metal music before, but it's German folk with metal. And no one ever did it with Slavic music or Croatian music, with this Adriatic Mediterranean music, not Italian, but our Mediterranean, which is mixed by these two cultures. And getting inspired a little bit by bands like in Extrema, of course, the Rammstein, because also they had some folky elements in the beginning, and they used this German heritage to tell the story, but inspired by other bands totally in a different subgenre of metal, like In Flames or whatever. We merged this and created and tried to do the Mantra sound, which actually came really organically. It really appeared in the first try, and it never changed. It just evolved bits by bits, like 2-3% every album. We change a little bit, this 2-3%, but the root, it's really, really solid, and it's really Mantra. And when you say the Napalm Records sound, I guess we have this sound without the interference by Napalm Records. I guess we had this sound before. Yeah. It's just the sound of the band, and then it fitted really well with Napalm Records. So
one of my favorite jokes, I saw somebody post about it, when Napalm just recently signed Dragon Force, somebody commented going, wait, they weren't on Napalm already? Like, so I just always thought that was hilarious. And, you know, looking at the band's photo shoots, because I just love the imagery that's associated with Mantra as well. Like, do you almost feel like, and I ask a lot of bands this, do you almost feel like you're portraying characters? I don't mean to like almost like challenge the genre in a way, but you see a lot of these Viking death metal bands. Now, let's be real, nobody is a Viking in the modern day era, like in a way. Like nobody's touring on, the Viking warships and everything.
I know one guy, but let's not talk about it.
Fair enough. But like, I've always wondered, like, do you, in a way, is there an essence of portraying like a character or maybe like an alter ego in this style of music? Do you almost feel like, the Marko who I'm speaking to on Zoom right now, if I see that same Marko on stage or the one who I'm looking at in the photos, it's not the same Marko, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I see this a lot in every performance, not only in metal music, but in other genre. I mean, I think it's a normal thing. It's like bringing out something that's hidden in you. At least this is what I try to do, and I think this is sincere. On stage, I'm not a different Marko that doesn't exist in me. It's just a Marko that lives in stage. It's like, for example, I'm doing boxing actively, and I'm a calm person. I will never hit anyone. But when I do boxing, when I'm sparring, I'm a different Marko. It comes somewhere from inside, and I know I'm allowed there to get punched and get hit. And because these are the rules of doing a sparring, and I will never do that on the street. If someone provokes me, I will just turn around and go away. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So it's not unsincere. It's 100% you, and it's 100% sincere. So Marko in Manntra on stage just lets this persona go out. I just don't try to push him back inside of me because he can freely go out. And regarding portraying some characters, for these album titles, we wanted to do that. We wanted to look like a poster of a dark fantasy movie. This was the idea, and this is why we had this like poster kind of movie commercial type of advertising photos. Before, we were not doing that much. We had our costumes that we use on stage, which are, I guess it's cool to have them on photo sessions because you present to the fans, to the people, what they will see. I mean, if you see me in a normal t-shirt doing the photo shooting and then I come with big, I don't know, leather stuff on me and stuff like that, that's a little bit, I don't know, bizarre maybe? You know what I mean? Like, you're presenting yourself like, this is Marko who's going to buy milk in the market, and then I am totally different on stage. No, this is Marko in Manntra. That's me. It's 100% genuine. And the way I'm talking to you, I will talk in between of the songs, and I will talk with the fans or with anyone who comes to me after the show. It's not that I'm acting tougher or whatever, you know.
There are times where this music, and I mean it as like a compliment, Nick, because I think it's extraordinary. I almost wish it would get done. Where like I see these concerts, like a band like a Korpiklani or an Ensiferum or a Tear or something like that, and it really almost seems like a play. It almost feels like I'm watching a play with heavy metal instruments, a musical, if you will. And I've always said that they need to make like a folk metal or a symphonic metal on Broadway or something like that. Maybe Napalm on Ice or something like that. But like, because it almost seems like that there is such a narration behind it, and that there's a setting behind it. I mean, the dancing that I see in the pit, it almost feels like a real cultural experience. And then like, I think there's no other genre. Like, you take bands like Wardruna or Heilung, which don't really sound metal at all, and it's really just ambient sort of folk music, but they have a great metal following. And so I've always actually wondered why metalheads are so open to very traditional folk music, even if like there's no metal incorporated at all. When I saw,
it's about
go on.
Sorry. It's about the energy, and it's about the attitude. Also, for example, you mentioned this. I'm really big fan of the band Justice. I mean, the electro duo from France, Justice. Maybe you heard about them. They are two house DJ with this special French kind of vibe, but they have a metal following. They look like metalheads, like rockheads, because their music has an edge. They are edgy, you know. They have this energy of metal, and it's genuine. It's genuine. Like Wardruna, they have this metal energy much more than the metal bands who pretend to be metal, you know. It's much more metal, you know. And I think Manntra has also this energy because we come from, our background is from the street, from the garage, from playing shitty shows, you know. We have this punk attitude, this rock and roll attitude, and I think this works really well for us because people expect a metal band when they come to see us, but in the end they see that everything is all around the place, and people see this genuine energy, like it's rock and roll in the end. And really rock and roll. We're living it, you know.
And the best thing about this genre, the best thing about the folk metal genre, I feel, is that it really is. Look, we've all witnessed this one way or another, and anybody who tells you that they weren't witnessing this is lying to you. But like, we've all seen plenty of metalheads take themselves way too seriously. Me included. I've been guilty of going to black metal shows in corpse paint and not smiling a single night and almost being like, why are all you assholes having a good time? We need to be miserable in this. But like, I really do feel like folk metal is the best like genre of metal that is almost kind of like, I think it's one of the most rebellious forms of music, almost saying like, fuck you to the whole miserable attitude. Like, this is meant to be fun, and it is meant to be enjoyable, and you can smile as you mosh in the pit, you know?
Yeah, but folk metal, it's really cool because it's really polarizing. For example, we have a huge following base in the Gothic scene, and we play festivals like Mera Luna and stuff like that, which is totally Gothic, and we are there somehow. Because folk works in both directions, you know, you have these funny bands which are singing only about drinking and whatever, and you have then bands like Mantra who has everything somehow mixed and sounds like more serious, but it's not serious. But it appeals to the people who are more, into this darker kind of, party music, not only let's have pints of beer and be happy and
Yeah.
dance around the fire.
Yeah, I will never drink with any of those musicians again, but I will say that. I wanted to talk
They are
more.
heavy drinkers.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about your songwriting and the sort of like
Yeah.
lyrical themes behind it, because I've noticed that a lot of with bands that they express concepts and stories, all this. But does your own personal life and your own personal experiences or own personal stories serve as musical subject matter, like serve as a source of inspiration, or do you tend to use Mantra as more of like an escapism from your personal life?
Depends on the song, depends on the period. I mean, it's a long period. We've been together for 10 years and hopefully we will be for many more decades. So everything happens. There are moments when you feel so miserable when you write a song that you want to express yourself. Then there are times when you write a song and you feel so motivated and you are inspired by something out from the box, from something that's happening in the world, or maybe you read a great book and your mind just blew up and you want to put it in somehow. So it's really, really different with Mantra, and we were never a concept band, so we never wanted to make something that's really connected to us, tied to us, because some bands in this kind of genre, as I mentioned before, they use a similar theme all around, all the time. Also other bands like Slipknot, Ghost, they always have, which are huge bands, they always have the same theme recycled in a different kind of way. We didn't want to do that because it came organically to not do that. Maybe it will be better to do that. Maybe you are more commercially successful. I don't know. But yeah, for Mantra, it was more about experience and then telling a story about this experience so that people can look at it in more perspective and get a layer of the story. It's, for example, if you are talking about a battlefield, it's stupid. It's just a battlefield. But if you do it layerized, it's not about the battlefield. The battlefield is just a metaphor for something else, and then you find layers where you find yourself. Because for me, it's important that when the listener listens to our music, he finds himself in the song. That he finds a spark, a guidance, something that makes him happy or energetic or hopeful. It's not about me to telling him what to do or her. It's about them to explore the song and find something for themselves. So I think this is the magic of music. It heals, and when you are on the brink, it brings you back, hopefully. So this is much more important than any money you can get as a musician.
Yeah, because I love the diversity of the titles of this album. When you have like The Heart of the Storm, or you have like Unholy Water, which nice typo negative reference there as I see as well. But like, but with a track like Higher, are people, maybe some people go, oh, are they doing a Creed cover? But then like to have Forgotten Part 1 and 2 and ending it with The Ritual, and then ending the album with Nav, which I'm not sure what that, a lot of people may not be sure what that means. So like, it seems like the titles in of itself express a lot of elements where they are very thought-provoking and very open to interpretation.
Thank you. For us, it's always like a journey. An album needs to be a journey. It's like it starts with something and then it brings you with a climax and then it brings you back to something else in the end. And there is an epilogue. So hopefully we achieve that, at least to a degree. We will be really happy that we achieve it to a degree, at least. And that's how we look at albums. It's just like a journey. Nowadays, albums don't have a purpose, to be honest. You don't sell CDs anymore as before. People can stream singles and everything is more single oriented, blah, blah, blah. And in many music, albums disappeared. I don't think house musicians are releasing albums anymore. They just release singles and stuff like that. So metal is one of the last bastions of album kind of concept.
Yeah.
Because they have this kind of a fan base. And since we are doing that, it's becoming something special, a boutique stuff, let's say. Then we want to bring something like a journey in it. It's not just like a collection of singles. You have this chance to tell a story in a way.
Absolutely. I feel like the albums do tell a story, but you could also Like, you have your story, which I would love. I know your fans would love to hear and listen, and then are able to interpret it to make it into our own as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
And because I feel like no matter how much we think we like, we are all of our own people, so our experiences in life are very different. So therefore, our experiences with the music are also going to be very different too.
Yeah, of course, and it depends when you discover the band, the album, or when you first time listen to a song. Sometimes the song doesn't hit you because you are in a different mood than the song. Sometimes a stupid song that would never have hit you hits you so hard. So this is how it works, and you never can predict it. And this is the magic, still the magic of this, let's call it music.
Yeah. It is a terrifying thought to think that if the first time you heard your favorite band, had you listened to maybe a different song by them at a different time, would they have still been your favorite band? It is like a scary sort of like what if rabbit hole you could go down.
I remember back in the days, since I grew up with MTV, Viva 2 and all these channels before YouTube. I mean, I was a kid there. I will hear a song on the radio, and this song was nothing to me. I didn't even notice the song. Then I will see the music video, and the video made such an impact to me that I started to take consideration of the song, and I started to get fond of the song. And this is really crazy now to think that we lost this medium. I mean, we lost this moment of impact of MTV or whatever music channel you had, because YouTube is flooded with everything. Everyone can create now a pretty solid video. Let's be sincere, but this was a big thing back in the days, at least for me. I will hear a song, not clicking. I will see the video with a song, wow, because the video will enhance the music. It will enhance the impact that the song had on me. And then I will start to listen to the song, and I will be like, "Wow, this song is really good." I didn't notice that.
And this evolves. Like, look, 20 years from now, you're gonna hear musicians say, "I grew up with TikTok," and when I saw Bad Omens put out their hit single, "Just Pretend," on there, and I remember it making an impact on me. Like, that's gonna be the modern day like MTV, whether we like it or not, and for better or worse, regardless of how you feel. But
I'm not criticizing the times. Times are changing and everything is evolving. I'm just saying that the perspective is changing, and you're right. It's really scary to think that maybe we will have lost some great artists, never discovered them, if we will have heard a song that's not the best one that we had put us.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've lost sleep interviewing a band, and they told me, "Oh, well, we had to crop out like 5 songs from this album," and I'm like, "Oh my God, how amazing could those songs have possibly been?"
Yeah.
So, before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time, and most of all, thank you for giving us this amazing album. I think that Titans is by far the cream of the crop in your catalog. It's a fantastic disc, and I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear it. It's coming out March this year. Is there just anything else with the release of Titans that you'd like to promote for Manntra? Please tell me that there's maybe a U.S. tour somewhere in the near future.
You're too kind. Thank you for your nice words. Sadly, no U.S. tour, as at least I don't know. Maybe someone else knows that.
Wink.
Yeah, March 14 is the release date of the album. I will suggest everyone to try to check Manntra, and maybe we open the door for Manntra for the US tour in the future if Titans goes well. Who knows? We would like to visit.
Yeah, I will smuggle you guys here if I have to. I'm waiting for the day that like becomes like a big famous lawsuit. Like, diehard metal fan gets arrested for smuggling musicians in for a US tour. But thank you so much.
That will be really good.
Pretty metal too. But thank you so much.
That's pretty rock and roll, yeah. And thank you so much. It was really nice, and hopefully we talk again for the next record.
I'm looking forward to it. Everybody, we are here with Manntra. Be sure to check out Titans coming out March 14th via Napalm Records. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.
Bye.